Welcome to the Holistic Living Podcast, my beautiful friends. You can expect my uncensored, real, and honest thoughts on a wide variety of health topics. If you love to learn on ways to improve your health, your life, your mindset, your emotions, and everything in between in a natural way, you are in the right place, and I am so excited to have you here. Welcome to episode 39 of the Holistic Living Podcast. Today I am talking about perfection, especially around holistic living. Every time I have a conversation with one of my clients, they're always saying, it is so hard to stay on track. It is so hard to envision myself for the rest of my life eating very restricted and very clean and managing my stress and all the things that people typically promote with a healthy lifestyle. So I'm here to debunk a few things. I'm here to share my personal lifestyle with you and how I have found balance. Because listen, guys, we are human. Being human means there is no such thing as perfection. I don't care how many online influencers or practitioners that you see that seem to have a 100% perfectly clean, organic, low stress lifestyle. It's just not, it's not true. Okay. They're probably, really healthy, eating clean and all the things 99% of the time, but there is no perfection anywhere, period. Unless you are living 100% essentially at home. So you are not ever eating out. You are never traveling. You are never going to anyone's houses, so on and so forth. It is really, really hard to manage your stress and to manage your toxin burden and your diet and all the things if you're living in today's modern world. And on top of that, being human, we are not perfect no matter how hard we will try to be perfect. It's impossible. So let's dive into it, guys. I'm going to use myself as the example for today because one thing that I always feel bad about is the messages that I get on social media where people are saying, oh, I wish I could have your discipline. I wish I could be having, as healthy of a lifestyle that you have. And then I always just feel like, oh, well, that's not great because I must be portraying that my life is always super healthy and clean, which it is most of the time, but it's not all the time. So I do my best to try to share. If I do go out and have like ice cream or have desserts or treats, I always try to share that. I have not gone out lately to like restaurants and stuff just because it's expensive. And most of the time I'm with like my trillion kids. Just kidding. I have 4, but it's still a lot and it's expensive to feed them all out at restaurants these days. So we honestly just don't go out much. It's not because I don't want to eat out. I actually love going out. It's just genuinely, it's expensive. So I haven't shared much of that lately on social media. So naturally my diet has been a bit cleaner, I guess, just because we are eating at home, but I'm still going to explain what my balance is, what my lifestyle looks like right now. And I'm going to be 100% honest and transparent. And half of my family and close friends listen to this podcast, so they will know obviously if it's true or not. So I will be telling the truth 100%, no exaggeration, not hiding anything. All right. So hopefully you guys will feel a lot better at the end of this because I do put myself out there as someone who I consider to be healthy. Every aspect of my life is really focused around health. So to explain that, my relationships, if I am hanging out with somebody who is making me feel stressed out, who's bringing negative energy, etc., who doesn't understand my way of living and doesn't support me in this low toxic lifestyle, I just don't hang out with those kind of people. So I strive for health in my relationships and my finances. I try to have a healthy relationship with money where I'm not super restrictive and also not super indulgent. I try to be, finding this balance, try to have a good balance between being charitable and, giving donations and things like that, and then saving for the future. And I try to really only put my money where I feel confident in where it's going, essentially. So I'm not going to be spending money where I don't agree with the organization, or I'm not going to be supporting an institution or anything like that that doesn't align with me. It's not anything to do with like a cancel culture or anything like that. It's just if I'm going to spend money somewhere, I want to support the people, the individuals, the businesses that I feel align with where I'm at. So I try to find that healthy balance with, again, finances, with relationships, with my diet. So in terms of my diet, everything I put into my body first will cross my mind, and I will say to myself, is this something that's going to nourish me and fuel healing, or is it going to promote disease? And most of the time, now definitely not all the time, and that's what I'll be sharing with you today, I actually do eat quite a bit of like quote unquote junk food. Now I'll describe what that is because it's probably a lot different than what people assume junk food to be, but I'll get into it. But regardless, I try to, majority of the things that I'm putting into my body, I try to make sure that they are the most healing and nourishing. So that will also include organic food. I try to buy organic produce. I will do my best to get organic and grass-fed and pasture-raised meats and bone broths and things like that. So essentially, I'm looking for quality of food, purity of food, and then also looking for nutrition density. So whatever I'm putting into my body, I want it to be pure. I want it to be high quality and have a lot of nutrition. Again, there's exceptions. I do eat some junk foods and things like that. And then I'm striving for health in my mental space. So obviously trying to manage my stress and anxiety, practicing deep breathing, meditation, mindfulness, all of these things that are going to help me have a clear mind. I am not going to be listening to trashy music. I mean, sometimes I'll have some gym music that's maybe not the best, but like in general, the music that I listen to, the podcasts that I listen to, the movies that I watch, I will try my best to have things that are going to keep my stress low, that are not going to fill my mind with, toxic thoughts, that are not going to cause me to feel some type of way negatively. So for example, there were way in the past, I was following a lot of Instagram accounts that there was nothing wrong with the accounts. Okay. Like some were home accounts, some were fitness, things like that. Some were motherhood accounts. But if I started to feel not enough, inadequate, if I started to feel like, again, some type of way that wasn't serving me, I just started to unfollow the accounts. It's not because there was something wrong with the account, but just something that I thought, you know what, if this isn't making me, if it's not uplifting me, if it's not making me feel excited, happy, like a positive emotion, I don't need it in my life. And I did find, I think social media has gotten a little bit better in some ways and really bad in other ways. And I'm going on a different tangent here, so I'll wrap this up. But I think in some ways people are trying to be more honest, and they're trying to be like, hey, I'm not a perfect mom all the time. My house is not always perfect. My kids are not always perfect. We're not always dressed perfect. Or, you see people out there like fitness influencers are starting to show that, hey, I don't have a flat stomach all the time. Sure, in the morning when I haven't eaten, I do, but throughout the day, I start to have a bit of bloating or a bit of puffiness, and like that's normal. And it's kind of refreshing to see some of this coming out. Although, like I said, there is so much more toxicity than ever before online as well. So it can go both ways. But the past few years, before things started to get a little bit better and more transparent, I did find it to get a little bit toxic, where there were some mom accounts that I was following, and I was like, this is just stressing me out and making me feel like I'm an insufficient mother, because all they do all day is have a perfectly clean house, and they're cooking and baking all day with the kids, but she's also working, and they also have, perfectly dressed all the time, even if they're just going to the park and whatever it is. And I started to feel like I'm not enough. And that's on me for thinking that way. It's not, I shouldn't put it on the accounts that I was following. But at the end of the day, again, if it didn't serve me in a way that uplifted me, I just chose to not have it. So coming back to living healthy, a big thing that I strive for is on the aspect of the mental sphere. Again, managing my stress, managing content that I'm consuming, whether it's music, movies, social media, etc. If it doesn't relax me, if it doesn't make me laugh, if it's not bringing me joy, I don't need it. So filtering out, the bad and keeping the good. So we have diet, we have our mental sphere, we have relationships, we have finances that I strive to be healthy in. Of course, then we have toxins in my home. I don't use fragrances. I don't use any chemical products, period, whether it's makeup, skincare, cleaning and detergents, fragrances, zero toxic products enter my home. I don't even have one that I use once in a while to clean my toilet. Like nothing in my house is toxic in terms of the products. And I'm very proud of that I've gotten to a point where I've ditched and switched enough of the bad for the good, that everything product wise in my home is toxin free. I'm also very careful with the clothing I bring into my home. I don't bring in things that are like any fast fashion type of clothing, because typically those are really heavily covered in different chemicals and toxins. You can smell it on the clothing. So when possible, I try to buy organic clothes, especially for babies. It's a lot easier to do that. And I'll try to buy clothes that aren't full of dyes. I'll try to get even like feminine hygiene products that are organic. So things that are touching our body, clothing, things like that, I try to get as clean as possible. And then in regards to like what we have in our home, I have a lot of plants to help filter. I have diffusers, essential oils going. So we have good air quality. I've got air purifiers. I don't turn them on all the time. One actually, a really expensive one, my kids just broke. So I need to update that. But in general, we have good things going on in our home. And again, the list goes on. I try to manage my sleep. I sleep between 9:30 and 10:30 p.m. every night. I wake up between 6 and 7. So I have these things in my life that are non-negotiables to me, where I'm protecting my mental space. I'm protecting the energy by the people I'm hanging around. I'm having low toxicity in my home with products. We're sleeping at the right time. I'm managing my stress as much as I can. I exercise almost every single day. If I'm not at the gym, I'm doing walks, I'm running around, so there's always some kind of physical activity happening daily. So I've established this healthy lifestyle, and essentially everything that I have going on in my life, I try to have it support my health rather than take away from. For example, if someone's inviting me to an event and I feel like that day I've already burnt myself out with running after kids and working and all the things that I have done that day, I will turn down that event. I'm no longer in a space where I feel like I have to be a yes man and say yes to everything. And it was really freeing being able to start to say no to things. And so that is one thing that I found I've really taken my health to the next level by not pushing my body past its boundaries or past like what it can handle. And I know what my body can handle. So if I start to feel too tired, I have no problem canceling plans. I have no problem saying no to people. I obviously do it in a really respectful and loving way. I'm not just going to be like, hey, last minute, I'm not coming to your house after you invited me for dinner and probably cooked a ton of food. It's not like that, but it's more like if I am making plans with friends to hang out, and then as that date's approaching, I had a really crazy week and I'm really overwhelmed, I'll message them and I'll be like, you know what? I had a rough week. I'm exhausted. Can we please reschedule? And I will absolutely reschedule for a different time. But again, it comes back to like even events and parties and things. Like I turn most of those stuff down now because I find that being in public with a ton of people too frequently for me and my personality, it really drains me. It used to actually energize me. As I've gotten older and had kids though, and really changed a lot of things in my life, I find that just small talk in general exhausts me. And again, this is another tangent, so I'll come back shortly. But small talk really exhausts me, and having to honestly like even just dress up and get my hair done and those kinds of things, I feel too tired sometimes to do that. And it's fair. I have 4 kids. I run a full-time business. My husband's working. I've got a home to take care of. I cook everything from scratch. So I have enough things on my plate that it's okay if I feel, too tired to go to events and things. But anyway, long story short, what I was trying to say at the start of all of this is I will police and monitor as much as I can in my life. And I love doing it. We have really pure drinking water, and everything that I do, I try to, again, think to myself, is this going to encourage the healing in my body, or is it going to encourage disease? And if I go out to a restaurant and I am having a meal, I will bring literally my own water with me from home. Now, it sounds like ridiculous and extra to some people, but for me personally, I don't want to, if I'm going to expose myself to toxicity, I'd rather get some ice cream, or I'd rather, do something different and more fun than drink tap water that's full of chlorine and heavy metals. Like, I'd rather just bring water from home and have one less toxin exposure. But then if I am to have toxins, if I have to have a toxin exposure, I'd rather do it in a fun way, something that brings me joy. For example, like I said, going out and having some ice cream or dessert. So for me, water is just really easy to bring myself. And I really don't like the taste of tap water anyway. So anyway, I will do my best to really watch what I'm consuming, what's around me, how it's all affecting my health. However, all of that being said, when I mentioned at the start of this podcast that I consider myself to be a healthy person, I just wanted to give you guys an understanding of what that looks like for me. Okay. I take all my herbs, I'm drinking my herbal teas, I'm getting enough protein, I'm on all the different superfoods like collagens and all the things. So I have my life in order in terms of health. And I would say 89 to 90% of the time, sometimes even closer to 95% of the time, that's how I live. So I'm watching my stress, I'm watching what I'm consuming content-wise, I'm watching what I'm eating, I'm getting good water in, I'm exercising, etc., etc. That is not what I want you guys to think that I do 100% of the time though, because honestly, I don't. So here is the real, here's the raw. I'm going to share it all with you. I'm going to give you examples of what the balance looks like in my life, because I'm also going to be realistic and say, I have 4 kids. They are young. I don't want to restrict them so much to the point that they resent me and end up going opposite and against everything that I've been trying to teach them and encourage them to do. And I see it time and time again. And I did that growing up, where my parents were so restrictive of the sugar and what I was consuming. And I ended up binging beyond anyone's imagination for many, many years. I had a massive eating disorder and so many health issues as a result of that. So I want my kids to have some freedom. And while I do restrict a lot of things, I do explain to them why, and then I will let them enjoy things, frequently enough that they're not, again, feeling super, super restricted. At least I hope. I mean, everyone's just doing the best they can as a parent. And for me, I hope I'm doing the best. I might still be doing too much and my kids might resent me for it as they get older. I hope that's not the case. And I hope I'm doing this in a healthy way for them. But like I said, I don't want to be so obsessive about health that they literally get a complex from it. So keep in mind, I do have 4 kids. If you are, older, if you don't have kids, if you're someone who really wants to go 100% with your health and not have junk food ever at a restaurant and not, do anything that's going to affect your health negatively, all the power to you. I wish I was in a point in my life where I could do that. As of right now, I'm not, and I don't really want to be. So before I explain to you what I consume and, how yes, I'm not always perfect and life is actually more normal for me than you might think. I do want to say, put a disclaimer here. When I was on my healing journey, so when I had severe psoriasis and IBS and mold toxicity and topical steroid withdrawal syndrome and thyroid issues and PCOS, and the list went on, I had to be 100% strict. So you will notice, and if you watch old YouTube videos of mine, I mentioned this in there, where when people would ask me, like, are you having cheat meals? The answer was no. And I truly could say that I was pretty much just slightly shy of perfect in terms of my health at that point. I had to be, because there was no wiggle room. There was no shot for me to have a little bit of ice cream or to elevate my stress or anything like that, or I 100% would have a full-blown flare again. My body was at the heightened amount of sensitivity it could possibly be at. I had so much histamine, I couldn't tolerate any wiggle room at all. I couldn't even have nightshades or even foods that were considered healthy, like nuts and coconut. So for me, if you are in that state that I was in, I want you to understand that what I'm sharing with you shortly on like how I'm living, I don't think that's how you should be. If you are in a point where you are on a healing journey and you are in the midst of it, you're in the trenches, you do need to stick it out and be super, super strict with your diet and all the other aspects with no cheats and things like that, or it can really disrupt your progress. But where I'm at now is I'm not on a healing journey anymore. I'm happy with where my health is at. That being said, of course, there's always things I need to work on. My adrenals no doubt need support. I'm always working and exhausted. And there's obviously things I still need to work on, but these are things that I can do with the lifestyle that I have right now. There's nothing that I have to really seriously try to reverse. So because of that, I have given myself over the past couple of years, after my healing journey was quote unquote over, I've given myself that wiggle room, and I've now kind of shifted my lifestyle to something that's a bit more manageable for me and for my kids. So that brings me to, what does it look like today? So usually what we kind of try to do for our, I'll start with diet. For our diet boundaries would be, during the week, I'm at home, so I'm cooking most of the time. And whenever I'm cooking, I'm obviously going to have healthy, organic foods that are sugar-free, gluten-free, dairy-free, and all those things. Okay. So at home, we're prioritizing vegetables. We are prioritizing our protein and high quality ingredients, minimizing our carbs and our sugar, especially during the week. Weekends is typically where we allow ourselves more wiggle room because we are always with family on the weekend. We get together with all my siblings, nieces, nephews, parents, sometimes even cousins and aunts and uncles, depending on the occasion. So every single Sunday, we're usually out at my mom's house or something like that. So we're going to have more wiggle room where I might let the kids have a bit of gluten. I try to not do it. And honestly, my mom has been like, we're usually at her house on Sundays for a big family gathering, and she does most of the cooking. And she's incredible at making everything gluten-free. So 99% of the time that we're at my mom's, there is no need to have gluten because everything is gluten-free anyway. However, if it is like once in a while, she'll have like some bread or pizza or something, I of course will let my kids have it because they don't have a gluten allergy or sensitivity. We are gluten-free, at least for my kids, because of a preference. I don't want them to develop leaky gut and a ton of inflammation, but I also don't want them to feel like gluten's evil and they can never touch it. So I will let them have gluten. Absolutely. I don't consume it because I just don't want to get more inflamed, but I'm borderline celiac. So there's that as well. So my kids will absolutely have gluten. I personally will have dairy. We also will have sugar. We'll usually have dessert at my mom's and we love it, every bite of it, and enjoy it. It can be ice cream. It can be like a gluten-free pie. It's different all the time. And a lot of times I'm bringing the dessert myself. So we might do like donuts. There's an amazing bakery in Niagara it's called Edible Options, and they have like awesome donuts and brownies and stuff. It's full of sugar, of course, but at least it's gluten-free. So I can consume it. But we don't strictly reduce sugar, especially on the weekend. So we're more mindful during the week. Now, also speaking of food though, sure, it can be overwhelming to think about cooking every meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner from scratch during the week. And so just so you're aware, I don't always do that. There are days where I'm losing my mind because the kids were extra needy and work was extra crazy and life is just nuts. And I am just like, I can't cook. I'm too tired. And so we're going to go and order some gluten-free pizzas for dinner, which have dairy. They have tons of who knows what kind of chemicals in there, bad oils, all the things. But we're going to order it and we're going to enjoy it. Or I'll go order Thai food, but it's still full of sugar. Sure, it's gluten-free, but they're using probably GMO like tamari sauce and who knows what else. Okay. So the point is, there was a time in my life when I was on my healing journey where I was 100% obsessive, and I had to be, and I couldn't eat out, and I couldn't even have a speck of anything that was not good for me. But now my health has gotten so incredible and I feel so good all the time. My gut's so much better. Everything's so much better that I can have these foods and I don't get repercussions from it. As long as I get back on track and we're continuing overall to have a healthy lifestyle, my body can totally handle us going out and having ice cream or pizza or Thai food or, desserts and whatever it is. So in terms of diet, during the week, we're typically pretty clean. For me, during the week for sugar, I honestly don't really consume it unless I go to like a bakery midweek, which I do sometimes. And I share it on my social media and I'll grab like some cookies or donuts or something. But most of the time, we are sugar-free. And for like sweet foods, I make, which I've shared on my Instagram, like a sugar-free hot cocoa. I use like the Four Sigmatics, like think powder. And anyways, I make my, I have recipes on my Instagram if you guys want to check it out, but I make like sugar-free hot cocos. I sweeten it with stevia, so it tastes sweet. I'll have dark chocolate. Those are like kind of what we do. Or I'll get like my vanilla collagen from Ancient Nutrition and I'll mix it in with like coconut yogurt and some berries. And to me, that's sweet enough. Like I'm not at a point where I like need a ton of sugar. So I kind of will save it for date nights, for the weekends, for special occasions, but we do still consume it. And some days, like a couple weeks ago, we had so many occasions. There was a point where I had sugar every single day for a week and a half. It was cupcakes, it was donuts for birthdays, it was all these ice cream and all these things. And I started to feel like really fatigued. And I did start to feel a bit inflamed. So I just got back on track after that. But there were definitely times where I was having more sugar than I'm even telling you here. So I don't share it all on my social media because a lot of times I'm not even with my phone when I'm consuming it. or we just don't eat out as much, but I do have treats. So I don't want you to think that it's like never on the table. I don't always bake everything gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, etc. Like at home, I will bake chocolate chip cookies. Not often because it takes time and sometimes I'm too lazy, but I will bake chocolate chip cookies that have sugar. They're gluten-free, but they have like butter and sugar and they're normal cookies otherwise, and we'll eat a whole batch. So life is much more normal. However, I still personally, with all my autoimmune and health issues, and PCOS, I can't have a lot of sugar. So I do police, especially my sugar, more than anyone else. And it's something that I used to be a massive like sweet craving, had obsessions for it. I had to have it all the time. Now I actually don't really crave sugar, which is a huge win for me because I used to always need it. And now I actually prefer more savory, which is nice. So I'll go and make myself like some sausage or something, and that makes me really happy. So I don't need sugar as much, but it's just kind of where I'm at now. But it's not because I'm like, it's evil, never touch it. It's genuinely like, I don't feel like having it right now. And the sweet hot cocos and stuff get me by. So that's what we're doing for eating. There are weeks where I'm going and buying like a burrito there's like a burrito joint near my house, and they have like, they're not healthy, but they do make gluten-free burritos. I will get that gluten-free burrito and I will fill it up with all of the sauces, which are probably toxic. And I don't get meat because I get an ick for meat at like these random joints because I just don't trust the quality, but like, I just don't like the taste of it too. So I'll do like beans and rice with all the veggies and then like the burrito sauces. They're so good. They're not healthy at all, but I will go and enjoy that once in a while. I'll go and have like French fries, which they're gluten-free, but they're deep fried. They're not healthy. They're in bad oil, and I will enjoy it. So I'm at the point again in my life where I can have that balance. Finally, I can have, those junk foods here and there, those pizzas and things, but I'm still overall like healthy-ish in terms of like what I'm eating day to day. Also, I can say too, like a lot of times I promote like, okay, don't eat at night before bed, but there are nights, I'd say once every 2 weeks, I'll have like a big snacky night with my husband. We'll have like a date night at home. We'll watch a movie, and I'm pulling out like the gluten-free chicken nuggets, which are not healthy, not clean. There's a long list of bad ingredients in them. We'll have those. We'll have like apples with like peanut butter, which I normally don't have peanut butter. And then I'll have like, I don't know, cookies that I baked or donuts I picked up or something. So it's like a whole bunch of junk food, and we'll just have a fun night. So as you can see, like a lot of times diet is not always 100% perfect. So I hope that clarifies. I hope that makes you feel a little bit better if you're also in that space. I don't want to have perfection. My kids are at an age where they want some fun, and I love food. I'm a foodie, and I don't want to feel like I can never go out and enjoy myself. So again, now that my body's more healed, my inflammation's low, I maintain low inflammation throughout the week. I do my transcutaneous vagal nerve stimulation. I'm drinking frequent herbal teas. I'm taking my supplements. I'm getting in a ton of veggies and greens. So I'm still nourishing my body and keeping inflammation low that it can handle these treats and not send it into like a full-blown flare. Now, in regards to stress, like I also promote online, okay, we need to deep breathe and all the time, and we need to be managing our stress. And I stand behind that 100%. And I strive to do that for myself, but mine is not always 100%. I'll go through a day where I'm like, I did not take time to deep breathe today, and it's like bedtime and my shoulders are up to my ears and I'm tense, and I'm like, okay, I will always do it before bed where I'll like drop my shoulders, I'll deep breathe. So at least before I fall asleep, I'm relaxing myself. But there are days where I've gone through the whole day taking tiny little breaths, rushing around, stressed out of my mind. And I don't even realize until I get to bed that night where I'm like, I am so tense. So it's some things that I will miss too. And even though I'm promoting it all the time, like genuinely, I'm not always on the ball with this stuff. There are days where I just don't have time to get in my 15-minute deep breathing meditation. So I'll just deep breathe before I go to bed and then fall asleep. And there are days where, or weeks where I'll go without doing the castor oil packs and the hot Epsom salt baths. And I try to do that if I have the space, if my kids are, a little less needy at that time and I actually am able to. I love doing this kind of stuff. So I will get so excited to get to do a castor oil pack or take a hot bath, but it's not always. So I kind of work with what I have. I have 4 children who are all very young and all needing me, and I kind of have to give my attention to them. And if that means not putting as much effort into my health, so be it. And then with fitness as well, there are days where, and I tell you guys all the time, if you don't feel like going to the gym, go anyway. You know, it's the best time to go. It builds character, it builds discipline, and that's so true. In the beginning, when I was kind of getting back into the gym after I gave birth to my son a year and a half ago, there were days where I was like, I can't go. I'm so tired. And I would still force myself to go. And if I hadn't done that, I would have fallen off track and not have gone as consistently. But now that the gym is like a really active part of my routine, I love going, and it's something that I will like never not do. It's for me like okay for me to take a day off, especially if I'm feeling like I've pushed my body a lot this week, let it rest. I'm good with taking these days off and not forcing myself all the time, because I know it's not going to derail me. I'm not going to not go tomorrow because I didn't go today. I'm just taking a rest today. I'm being mindful of my body, my hormones, taking care of myself, and then I'll resume tomorrow. Sometimes tomorrow comes and I don't get to go because something happens and I don't have childcare or whatever it is, and that's okay. I just won't go that day either, but I try to be moving around at home. So I'm still going for walks with the kids, or I'm running around the house chasing them. We're playing tag or hide and seek. So I'm still moving. I'll do like a deep core workout at home before bed. So there's still things that I'm doing, even if I'm not as active as I'd like. So that's the kind of balance that I have in my life right now. I'm not always zen. I am stressed out of my mind so much. I get literally stomach cramps. Some days I'm so stressed out between balancing work and the kids and school and homeschooling and everything else. And financial stress, which is just so much right now with the cost of everything. And I'm feeding like 6 adults every day because my kids eat like monsters. So there's so much pressure, and life's not always perfect. And there's days where I'm like in tears, overwhelmed, and all the deep breathing that I'm doing is doing nothing for me in terms of how I physically feel. Sure, it's helping with my stress chemistry, which I love, but I'm still always, like a big wreck. And then on those days where I'm just beyond myself, I'm grabbing some frozen gluten-free pizzas from Costco, which are not healthy, and I'm popping them in the oven for dinner, and I'm putting a side of like carrot sticks and celery sticks and cucumber, and that's our dinner. Like there's no protein involved. It's just carbs and junk. And so I hope that makes you guys feel better. This is full transparency. Now, I don't want you to think that I am like this all the time, because I do also want to be honest and say I genuinely believe the healthier we are, the less likely we are to develop disease. Not always, but it will help. And for me, I want my children and my husband and myself to be as healthy as we can be. So overall, I am still like, we need to get our smoothies in, and we have to have these veggies, and we have to be taking these supplements and restricting our carbs and our sugars as much as we can. So I try to be that person, and I am that person 89 to 90% of the time, but there is about 10% of the time, so once or twice a week max, where we are having a bit more leniency with our diet. And it typically happens more so as we move to the summer, because in the summertime we are out more. We're going to grab ice cream on a hot day. We're going to, have those treats and things and enjoy it. So I don't know, guys, that's where we're at. One other thing I will say is with water. I'm not always getting in those 10 cups of water a day. For me, a lot of the time I'll get through the day where I'm like, I wake up and I hit the ground running. And I know a lot of parents are like this as well, where I have like half hour to get the kids dressed and ready and driven off to school and breakfast made. Then I come back, I homeschool my daughter, and then I'm starting work right away. And then I'm running around with the baby, and then we're cooking lunches and dinners. And so all of that is happening, and I'm doing consults in between all that and whatever, and grocery shopping, whatever else needs to be done. And I'm like, I didn't even have a second to stop and drink a bit of water. So there are times where I'll go the whole day without drinking. But what I have made a promise to myself for is when evening rolls around, I'm stopping everything. I'm not going to bed until I drink a good amount of water. So I'll pop a few cups back at least. The other thing is with sleep, I also promote like go to bed in your circadian rhythm, encourage that circadian rhythm, like the healthy flow, go to sleep between, 9:30 and 10:30. And I do that almost 100% of the time, but truly because I'm exhausted by that point of the day. We're also up earlier because the kids have school and the baby wakes up earlier. So my body's naturally in that clock, in that rhythm. However, Again, more so on weekends, but I will stay up with my husband. Sometimes if we're watching like a really good movie series, which is also something like you shouldn't be watching TV right before bed. But we do that sometimes. And sometimes if I'm watching like a really good series with him, we'll be up and it's like 12:30 and I'm like, shoot, we should probably sleep. And so there are nights where we are staying up late. It's not frequent because usually we can't survive. Like we're passing out by 10:30, 11, but there are nights where we do stay up later. And it's fun and we love it. We don't let like the goal for health and holistic living to completely ruin all the fun and to stop us from living and enjoying our life. Because at the end of the day, as much as we all want to live long and healthy, we also want to have a fun and full life. And if we never ever will watch movies together because we can't stay up late, and if we never get to have good food because we don't want toxins, and if this and that, we're not going to have a good and fun and enjoyable life. So it's all about finding the balance. We have found ours and I love it personally where I'm at. Sometimes I actually wish I had more of a health balance. Sometimes I feel like there's a few days go by where we've eaten really bad and my stress has been through the roof, and I'm like, okay, we need to really zone back in. Let's start having like healthy foods again. Let's drink the bone broth. Let's get back on the gut things. So we do fall off track sometimes more than I'd like. And it's just kind of rolling with the punches of life. Sometimes like it's easy to do all of it. And then other times I am like drowning and I'm barely surviving. And so that's where I'm like, give myself grace. It's fine if the kids are eating junk. They're still so healthy. We're blessed to have food in our bellies, even if it's not healthy food, and just like leave it at that and don't obsess about it. And I've had to work hard on that because a few years back, after I had finished being so obsessive with my health and I finally found the healing I was looking for and I started to potentially become a little bit lenient, I had a hard time with it, allowing myself and my kids to have a bit of leniency with what we're consuming. I honestly just kept picturing like, oh my gosh, we're going to die. Like this is so unhealthy. This is so toxic. But that extreme was actually unhealthy and toxic. And it was causing so much stress, just obsessing. It wasn't doing us any good. So it took some time because it's all I knew for so many years was that restrictive eating, which I had to do and I still stand behind. And I have my clients honestly do it. When you have so much inflammation and your body can't tolerate anything, there is no way out except to stop putting things that are aggravating it into the body. So for a while, you need to be that strict and you kind of start getting used to it. And then you start panicking when it comes back to reintroduction time where you're like, I'm going to try a little bit of dairy or a bit of sugar or whatever. And you start to panic because you're like, am I going to undo all the work I put in? But again, it's not healthy to constantly live in fear of everything as well. So you got to find your own balance. Ours is like 85 to 89 or 90% of the time healthy and holistic in every way. And then that 10% is like YOLO and we go and have fun and we do all the things and we stay up late watching movies and whatever else it is. So the one thing I will leave this with is, because I get this asked frequently, is do my kids have juice or sodas? And honestly, the answer is no. That's one thing I never put into our home. Even if the kids are at birthday parties, like they will ask me, can I have a can of like ginger ale? And I'll be like, absolutely not. I tell them honestly and openly, I'm like, you are too young to have that much sugar in your gut. It's going to destroy you. If you as you get older, if it's something that you choose to consume, that's okay. Like it's up to you. But as of right now, you're a little too young. So let's stick to, and I'll give them a healthier option. I'll be like, here's some bubbly. And even though that's not healthy and there's like BPAs and stuff in the cans, we only have it once in a blue moon. So I'll like give them that. And then I'll be like, you can mix in a little bit of juice into that. Again, this is like at like a birthday party. At home, we don't have anything like that in the house, but more when we're like the kids are out and all their friends are drinking like juice boxes, which are full of food colorings and stuff. I'll just be like, here's a bit of normal like orange juice, mix it in with a bubbly or something. So you feel special, but you're not getting like the sugar overload. And they agree because it's so cute because they're not used to a lot of sugar. They honestly and genuinely, if they have a piece of cake, they'll come up to me and they'll be like, I shouldn't have had that much. I feel so sick, and they regret it. And so they remember for next time to have a little less. And so they've said to me like, if I have too much sugar, I feel sick. I'd rather have sugar from cake than from drinks. And I was like, I'm so proud of you because I'm the same way. I don't want to drink my calories. I don't need the alcohol and the juice and the sodas. If I'm going to have the calories and the sugar, I want it to come from food because it's so much better. So yeah, that's where we're at, guys. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. It was a lot of rambling, but I don't have like a specific way that we live. There's no diet we follow or anything. It's just as pure and clean and simple as possible in every aspect. Like I said, finances, our stress, our mental health, our diet, our water, products in our home, and so on and so forth. We just do the best that we can, and that's all we can do. So I hope you enjoy. Thank you guys so much for listening and for tuning in. Oops, sorry. I hope you have a beautiful day or night wherever you're listening from, and I will talk to you in the next episode. I just dropped the mic, so sorry about that. Have a good one.